Okay, welcome everyone to NJLibsGrowBiz. This is our December 8th, 2022 meeting. My name is Andrea Lewandowski. I'm the library consultant for small business development and technology at the New Jersey State Library. And our meeting today is covering our statewide databases, and in particular, the ones that have content for business owners and entrepreneurs, how to make optimal use of them, including how to use them potentially to build partnerships with business organizations in our communities. So I think we have a small enough group that let's start by going around, and if everyone wouldn't mind introducing yourself, if you could just say who you are, where you're from, and how about if you have a favorite New Jersey State Library statewide database. And I will call on the first person, and if you don't mind calling on somebody else after you introduce yourself, then we can go around pretty quickly. So Bill, I'll start with you.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Carlson with Data Axle Reference Solutions, formerly known as Reference USA. I'm out of Omaha, Nebraska, and I do all of the training in regards to the database platform. Thanks for coming. Mike, how about you?
Good morning. My name is Mike Dugan. I'm also a teammate of Bill's with Data Axle Reference Solutions. I'm also out of Omaha, Nebraska. I help out with Bill Logis and Bill with kind of covering the background and with any sort of problems that may arise with New Jersey State Library. I'll pass it over to Amy Harris.
Hi, I'm Amy Harris. I'm from the Hoboken Public Library. I'm from the Information and Digital Services Department. I like a lot of the databases we have for this state. Definitely Reference Solutions is probably one I recommend the most. I really like novelists a lot for like getting literary recommendations as well.
And how about we throw it over to Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy Polhamus at the Gloucester County Library in Mullica Hill. The opposite end of the state from Amy. She's by New York and I'm by Philadelphia. That mysterious part of New Jersey that nobody knows about. I'm the head of adult services. I use Reference Solutions a great deal in my capacity as liaison to the business community. Also, the EBSCO business reference sources. And let's see, I'll pick a name, Steve Vitale.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Vitale. I am the Communications Technology Specialist here at the New Jersey State Library. And one of my main responsibilities is running JerseyClicks, which is the statewide resources program through this that the state runs with IMLS. Who haven't we got yet? Are we going to go through everybody in the group here?
Yep, we'll go through everyone.
Tanya will.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tanya. I'm the manager of the DEP branch library. That's New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection branch library, which is technically a branch of the New Jersey State Library. I do use Reference USA a lot. I do use, we have a lot at the DEP, we have a lot of people who are trying to track down information about businesses for tracking down responsible parties, tracking down polluters and things like that. So we do look up a lot of business information through that.
And how about Maria?
To unmute myself. My name is Maria Deptula. I am the director for digital library services at Berkeley College, but I'm also a liaison for the business class. Oh, yes, and I do use reference solutions. I have a couple of databases that I like, such as IB or Statista. But for small businesses, I do like Reference USA, as we know it here. Thank you. Maura?
Good morning. I'm Maura Walsh. I am the Grants Manager and LSTA Coordinator for New Jersey State Library. I've been here about 6 months, so some of the locations you mentioned I'm not yet familiar with, but I'm working on it. And I do both try to get grants for our state library and administer federal money giving out grants to some of your libraries. And so I just like to keep an ear to the ground and see what's going on. And I'm not allowed to have favorites, so no favorite database.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us, Maura. Stacy?
Sure. Good morning. Hi, I'm Stacy Niblo. I actually work for Gale. We are also a vendor on JerseyClicks, and the session description really caught my eye because I'm always looking to see more or learn more about how libraries are using the resources, and thought I'd just be a fly on the wall as I work with some other states as well, and am interested to just hear feedback on what folks want out of their training and things like that. So as for favorite databases, I'm going to exclude mine as I work for Gale. So personally, I'm a big fan of Heritage Quest. So I love genealogy research. So that's a fun one for me. So thanks.
Great. Last but not least, Olivia.
Hello, good morning. My name is Olivia Nellums, obviously, and I work at Mercer County Community College. I'm the acquisitions librarian there, and we have a tendency to use the EBSCO databases pretty heavily with our patrons and students. We hit everybody. I think you said I'm last.
I think so. I think we got everybody. So thank you, everyone. And now we're going to go a little bit out of order from how we had originally planned, because Bill is about to go on vacation. So I guess we should let him get to his flight on time. So Bill has some information to share about reference solutions. And you, Bill, I think you wanted to show your screen as well.
Yes, I wanted to share the screen. I've already brought up reference solutions here. Let me share that with you. So, you know, the topic in terms of getting the word out, and I know that some of you I've not had the opportunity to work with. I really, whenever I'm working with a library, whether they're a longstanding library that we've worked with for a number of years, or whether they're relatively new, one of the first questions I always ask is if they are in fact involved with their local chamber of commerce, because that's an entity that's available in most communities, and more those chambers of commerce have a new business development person on staff, and if not, they have someone that may in fact act in that capacity. But those folks are really charged with identifying businesses that are new to the community and seeing how they might help those businesses succeed in whatever industry that they may well be in. And so I know that those tend to be great contacts for libraries to have, from the standpoint of being able to let them know about any kind of programming that's coming down the pike that they intend on offering that may be of use to those people in that particular role. Certainly, I do a lot of programming for SCORE. I just did a program for the Central New Jersey SCORE office here before the Thanksgiving holiday, and obviously their clientele is built in perfect for access to the database, because they're looking at competition, right? They're looking at potential customers that they may work with, whether those customers are other businesses and or perhaps even consumers. So I like to make certain that those consultants working for SCORE and or the Small Business Development Center are well versed in how to use the database in order to mine that kind of information that they're most interested in. So those are three organizations. Some of the more successful programs that I've been a part of that were really something that were spurred on and developed through the library were business fairs. So some communities have chosen to network again with their chamber and those other organizations that I mentioned and offer a business fair, and they'll invite certainly that chamber to be involved. They'll invite economic development to be involved. They'll invite local universities or colleges to be involved. Certainly larger industries that are within the community as well. So they'll host an event. Oftentimes it's at the library, but I have been to some that have been off-site. Very well attended, in the numbers of 200 and 300 people that have come to these programs. So that's certainly something that any library that would have a pretty active business community, they could certainly take advantage of perhaps doing something like that. And we would be happy to come out and do some presentations and offer that kind of insight to those folks about how to use the database to grow or expand their business. So certainly those those business fairs, job fairs are another one that we've been involved with a lot. That's a great one. And obviously there might be, I used to cover the state of Florida, and I don't know if something similar exists within New Jersey, but I worked with a lot of the career OneSource folks that would, they would network with those local communities and reach out to them so that they could understand what kinds of needs those businesses have immediately for new hires, but then also what their goals were moving forward. And they really put together, in essence, a 5-year plan to help those industries from the standpoint of what kind of education, what kind of retooling could they offer to those individuals so that they'd be a good fit for those employers. So certainly if there's an organization like that that would be local, that could be a great one to network with. And then we want to be, and that's why I wanted to bring up the database real quick. We have, and I think sometimes folks don't realize or maybe spend much time under the Learning Center. We have some great information here that any of the libraries can access. We do have our marketing and training material, and right now this is all together. We are looking at perhaps breaking this out. And that would be something that we're going to probably start to work on in that first quarter of this next year. But when you come into the marketing and training, you've got all of these resources that the libraries can choose to either print off themselves, or they can request that through Steve to get that information sent to them. So these are some great bookmarks. We have this brochure, this trifold brochure that would literally walk a new patron to, using the database anyway, through reference solutions, walk them through how to go to that library's website, where to find our link, because our link isn't necessarily always in the same spot at each and every library. So it would be individualized based on what their needs might be. We have this poster that we can send out, and of course, all of these flyers that could be very useful. And then on the side of the house, in terms of just materials that a patron could have access to that would walk them through how to use the database, we do have all of this information, and we will be hosting soon. And when I say soon, again, it's probably going to be first quarter. I'm going to put together some 3 to 5 minute little snippets that I'll offer online through the website that patrons could watch and learn how to use the database just as a quick reference tool, right? Not a full-blown training, but just a quick reference tool that they could watch, and if they would like, then they can follow those steps and reproduce whatever it is that they might be interested in. So that's coming as well. If in fact anyone has some suggestions or ideas, we do have our contact us information here. Feel free to send us any kind of suggestions or ideas. I heard one the other day that we're actually speaking with our programmers about, and I really thought it was a great idea. We have in our US business database, as well as many of the other modules, I better cheat and go back like this. We have a tool that's a map-based search tool. Right now, you have the ability to draw your own shape. You can use a true radius. You can use some predetermined boundaries, as well as create a drive route. One of the suggestions, and I really liked it, I'm hopeful that it's something we can build into it, that would be an option by which the end user could just put in a physical address, which they can do now, and they can do a radius, but this will allow them to simply select a range, a predetermined range. So it might be 1 to 3 miles, or it might be 2 to 4, whatever it might be. Could click on that range, and then it'll populate all of that business information or that consumer information, depending on which module they might be in, and it would produce that instantaneously on that map. So that's something that I'm hopeful we'll be able to do from a programming standpoint.
Excellent. And I did want to show off, you were showing the marketing material. So Lee Clark and I went to an event a few months ago, and we used that Learning Center marketing information. And the handouts that we did, we had on one side the business database information, on the other side the consumer, because we knew that it was going to be mostly business owners coming in.
Right.
So this was really helpful even to have as like people were coming to our table to be able to talk about what the databases are, and then be able to show them right away the ways that they can search. And then we also included the how to use the database, how to use the US business database, which is also double-sided. So I thought that that was a really easy way to have so much information just at our fingertips to hand out. So I like those two in particular. I thought that they were very easy to follow, and had the dual purpose of sharing information about what the databases can do, but then also if you take this home, then you can get started.
Right. Absolutely. And I would share one of my favorites, if you don't mind, and that's the data visualization. So whether people are using our chart functionality or these heat maps, again, a great tool to be able to grasp a sense of density or the numbers of those businesses that are in that particular area. Or consumers for that matter.
Yeah. And Bill, you had mentioned coming out and doing events. Can you share a little bit more about how a library can schedule training with you, whether that's in person or virtual, and any suggestions you have to make those kinds of training opportunities more successful?
Absolutely. So I have an entire document here. Let me pull that up real quick. And anybody, I can send this out to anyone. In fact, Andrea, if you wouldn't mind providing everyone with my email address, I am real okay with receiving emails that folks want to discuss doing a virtual program or doing a program in person. In fact, I try and get out there at least twice a year. I'll be out again, fingers crossed everything goes well, in April And I would love to be able to do some programming then. And then since I'm going to be in Southern Jersey for the NJLA conference, I'm going to stick around down there and do some programming down that way as well. Let me
That's
find
excellent.
that. There it is. So this is an example.
And I think you have to stop sharing and then reshare the new screen.
Oh, I can't just pull this across.
No, we're still seeing, oh, there we
Okay.
go.
Okay, very good. So these are some of the menu items that we offer in terms of training. I have times listed there. Of course, I can really tailor any of these to fit your needs, whether that's about time or the content. But the idea is to obviously help those most likely to use the database, right? So those businesses or those consumers that are looking to identify businesses in a particular community. I'll use the database whenever I travel to a new area. I'll use the database to identify businesses, specifically restaurants, because I am a bit of a foodie, that have been around, say, like from 1940 through 1970. I'll look for those year established, and then I'll grab those restaurants, and I try and go to at least one or two of those restaurants when I'm in an area for any length of time. So yeah, we can certainly offer any programs virtually or in person. Like I say, I'm out there at least a couple of times a year.
Great. And when you come out, have you seen any trends in what gets more people to come to one of these trainings? Is it a time of the day? Is it a topic or a way that a library has promoted things? Like, have you seen anything that kind of helps to get more traffic through?
Certainly lunch and learns are always popular. Have also offered some programs in the early morning. And so we'll do bagels and data, right? Cream cheese data, and allow people to learn about the database then. So, certainly mornings have been good at some libraries, not so good at others. I think until people understand a pattern that a library offers in terms of programming, then obviously the word gets out more and more. But it's not a one and done kind of situation. We need to be able to obviously remain focused and keep that kind of direction going.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because not doing any other programming and then suddenly doing reference solutions may not bring people in, but the organizations that you mentioned, like Chamber of Commerce and SCORE, those existing relationships help to build a group of people who would be willing to come in and spread the word as well about the training.
Absolutely. Yeah. And invariably, people are always like, when I was last out, gosh, when was that? October, I believe. I had done a program at Westfield Public Library, and there were several participants that they were like, had no idea this was available at the library. And I don't know if it's that they don't know to ask the question, right? That could be part of it. They may not think of the library as a business resource. So I think the more that can be communicated through all of those various organizations, the more likely it is people will understand that, hey, they have a lot of stuff that's available for businesses, not just reference solutions, but a lot of different databases that are available.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering from the other attendees and those of you from libraries, I'm wondering if any of you have had Bill come out to your library, and if you want to share a little bit about that experience, or maybe any of your suggestions or advice. Yeah,
Lots
Nancy.
of new opportunities.
Andrea, I know that you know our library's history. with our chamber organizations, because I've been doing this for a really long time. But for those of you who haven't, please do connect with your Chamber of Commerce. Here, we actually have our county level chamber, which is very large and very active. But there are also, like, our county seat is Woodbury, and there's the Greater Woodbury Chamber. And on the other end of the county, there's a smaller community that does have a business and active chamber, the Paulsboro Chamber. So we have branches in those places. So we connect, you know, in as many ways as we can. I'm going to go back a bunch of years. But first of all, what Bill was saying about the time, our particular chamber, the Gloucester County Chamber of Commerce, which has hundreds of members and very active, they have a regular practice. It went away during COVID, but it's starting to come back, of morning meet and greet, a business card exchange, where, and the library tries to host once a year if we can get on their calendar, because it's popular. But the organization or business that hosts provides the coffee and the donuts or whatever. People come in mainly to socialize. They bring their business cards, they chat. It's a very congenial group. At about, that might start anywhere between 7:30 and 8, people start wandering in. At about 8:30, the president of the chamber calls everybody to order for a very brief, you know, period of announcements or you know, upcoming events or whatever, not a formal meeting. But at the end of that, whoever is the host, and in our case, it's the library, gets a few minutes to welcome everyone, offer a tour of your business or library in our case, and to do a pitch, you know, for a couple of minutes about, you know, everything we can offer, and say, hey, you know, you can make an appointment with me and I'll show you more about this. I actually would make house calls, and I will go to a business if they want their whole sales staff to see these, you know, tools, and I offer that. And it's a great opportunity to market yourself for everything you do, not just business, but the business resources is what gets people in the door. Locally for us, because our chamber is in the habit of having these, you know, breakfast events. So by 9 or 9:30, everybody's gone on because they're ready to start their workday. That's what works here. Lunch things don't seem to work so well here, but you got to get to know your community. And, you know, I will say we've had as many as 70 people at a morning meet and greet. Number of years ago, and everything before COVID is one big blob, so forgive me, I don't, time has no meaning anymore. Bill Logus came again. The chamber had been here numerous times. They had heard me speak. So one of these morning meet and greets, you know, I arranged it. Bill actually called me and said, I'm going to be in your area in March. What would you like to do? And we had done this a couple months in advance. Our chamber president was super enthusiastic. So we reserved our biggest meeting room, and we had coffee and donuts and everything out, and people started to drift in. And I remember Bill saying, wow, there's a lot of people here. I said, we're only up to 20, give it time. We had almost 50 people come in, and he talked, and they were fascinated. And about 9:45, I had to stop him and say, I'm sorry, but there's a story time in this room in 15 minutes, so we have to stop. But I still have chamber members talk to me about that. They remember that. And so if there's a way that you, you know, can get your chamber in, it was a great experience. It's been a long time now. I don't know, 7, 8 years or more, but I still have chamber members walk up to me and said, you know, I was at your library when you did that thing. And now I have the opportunity to say, well, you know, I can give you a refresher if you like, if it's been a long time. So I definitely recommend it. First of all, you have to forge that relationship and you know, get people in the habit of getting to know you personally. So you can say, you know, be there, show up at chamber events, you know, go out. They're not going to find you magically and say, hey, I think I'll ask the public library. Sure. When I talk to groups, business groups in general, I kind of lead with saying, I know that when you think about business, public library is not the first thing that pops in your mind. But I'm going to tell you why you should be thinking of us. And the fact is, one big kicker that our chamber president started to use all the time was, you're already paying for this. This is your tax dollars at work. And you should be taking advantage of it. And don't pay for this information before you check with the library to see if we can get it for you. So there's my little sales pitch that you are all welcome to adapt and use. But for us, it's been a great experience.
So Nancy, I just imagined you with a little medical bag looking kit that says Red Cross Business Resources.
Get that drastic. I don't want them to think it's emergency.
I'm here to fix what ails you.
I do, if I'm going out to some event, exactly what Andrea just described, and try to bring handouts and I'll give them and I'll say, this is just a hint at what it can do, but give it a try. Call me if you want to know more or if I can help you. So Andrea's suggestion of those promotional materials is really helpful.
And we also have a comment, Rachel, I don't know if you have a microphone that you want to unmute yourself and share as well, but that the Ocean County Library and Toms River partners with SCORE to provide small business programs at some of its branches. So if you wanted to share a little bit more, we'd love to hear about that, that partnership and what that includes. Maybe not. Okay, well, Rachel, you can also put more in the chat if you have anything that you'd like to share about cultivating that relationship. I know that SCORE is very interested in working with libraries. A lot of SCORE chapters have hosted events in libraries before, and their mentors themselves are an audience for the resources at the library. So there's multiple ways to connect with SCORE and provide that, that link to the resources at the library. Okay, and Rachel is saying that at the Jackson branch, outreach is done with the Chamber of Commerce. So there are, and even in the same county, in the same region, part of it is knowing what the business organizations are and what they are able to offer. And in some areas, there might be a strong downtown association. In others, it might be SCORE or a Chamber of Commerce. So part of that is just, so Rachel is covering the desk, so not quite able to use the microphone. Totally understand. Thank you. But like doing some of that legwork and even identifying maybe a business owner who's already coming into the library to learn from them about where they get their information, and using those connections to make introductions into different business groups. And then once you know those groups, leveraging those connections. So Bill, I don't know if you need to log out now or if you're gonna stick around a little bit.
I should do so. But if you wouldn't mind giving everyone my email address, and then, after the holidays are over, perhaps Andrea, you and I could look at the calendar year of 23 and pick maybe a couple of different times when I could come out, and we could just advertise that to folks that, hey, I'm going to be in this particular part of the state at this time, etc., and see who would like to perhaps offer some programming then.
Excellent. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And to everyone who's attending as well, if you even want to start thinking, you can certainly offer your own programs in your own library and start thinking about how to advertise them and reach out to your community to bring people in. But if you'd also like to start thinking about other partners or other libraries you might want to partner with to offer this, that would be an opportunity as well, to bring additional people in if you wanted to work across the county or across the region. So there's lots of opportunities to use these not just as Bill coming into your library, but also as a way to start building partnerships and reaching out to a wider audience.
Right.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Bill.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Enjoy Columbia.
I will. I will. Thank you.
Send some vitamin D,
Yes.
some sunshine to New Jersey.
Yes. And all the great fruits. Gosh, they have some fabulous fruit. So definitely, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to give time to Steve Vitale and let him introduce who he is and to talk a little bit more about the other statewide databases, how to there we go. How to access them, what information you can find, and how you can use that to, use that to your advantage when you're promoting the databases or otherwise sharing them with others. So, Steve.
Thanks, Andrea. First, I just want to thank Bill again and the whole Data Axle team. They're always a very responsive group, and we appreciate their dedication to supporting reference solutions. Because a lot of times it's not just about the resource itself, especially from our perspective. It's who's behind it, and then they're very great on that aspect. Secondly, I just want to start with like the realization that we realize. I realize that a lot of times what you're trying to accomplish is limited by resources and staffing. And also that being fairly new to the library world, you all most likely have much more experience on these topics, especially working on the ground floor in the libraries. So I hope these few points kind of meet the reality that you're working in and can be useful. The first thing I wanted to, before going into actual databases, the first thing I wanted to talk about is just knowing what each resource has to offer. And I'll touch on the few, and I would recommend just looking at them yourself if any of them aren't familiar to you already. But I think the one mindset that is really helpful is just making sure that everybody on the staff that interfaces with the public just knows the basics and can explain them and have them in the back of their mind in those moments where they could be useful. I'm new to the library world, but I've worked in marketing and sales for a while. And one thing I've always realized, and we had data to back it up, is when certain sales staff knew a product very well, that product would sell more. And you could actually see just through the data who was working on a certain day based on what was selling. And it just comes down to when you can explain the product, those are the ones that people gravitate towards. And I think as an easy baseline to get to, just having the staff know what is available so that when someone does come in asking, or even if I think more importantly, if they aren't directly asking, but you're able to make the connection because you know the resources and are able to offer them. And I know that's a really simple one, but it's one that I think in a lot of cases gets overlooked because you don't just always realize how important that is. And secondly, kind of on the same point, is just looking at the resources from the business owner's shoes. If you're a small business owner with tax issues, or maybe you're just trying to navigate some of the laws around what you're doing, and you're not ready to call in to say SCORE or some of the other state resources, you could go into the EBSCO's Small Business Reference Center and have a ton of resources from NOLO books and among other things. If you're a small business trying to expand and you're looking for data on that, obviously Reference Solution is bar none an amazing resource, and I'm glad Bill touched on a lot of that. If you want, and something as simple as if you're a business owner and you want access to business publications, maybe you want the Wall Street Journal, maybe you want, so-and-so, whatever other. EBSCO's business publications resources are a huge value added for a business that may not have the resources to spend, say, across 4 or 5 different publications in upwards of $80 to $100 a month. And those are things that maybe don't seem like the on a business scale the most important thing, but on the individuals within the business, those are things that matter a lot, especially in small businesses. And then again, don't be afraid to inject yourself into the business community. I know Bill said, and one of the other speakers was speaking about how great dealing with local organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, among others. That's really where you're going to meet a lot of people on the ground. But also, and I think again, maybe more importantly, because it's an obvious but often missed, don't forget that business owners are always among us in many different capacities. So like an example would be, maybe that reading for elementary school level that you have on a random afternoon. Just a realization that like a lot of these parents may be small business owners, and there may be opportunities through what you have hung in the library or just through conversation to expand the user base. And I think that all comes down to just always coming in with the mentality that maybe your users, or assuming your users, don't know the full breadth of what you have to offer, especially when it comes to business resources. Because I'll be the first to admit, coming into the state library about 6 months ago, and as a small business owner, I did not know what was available to me. And I had visited my local library in the past, and it's not their fault. I hadn't been actively looking for that information. But it's just a close example of what small business sometimes face, and their ignorance to maybe what's available to them. And then just to quickly touch on a few of the resources that are available through the state library and through JerseyClicks. Obviously, Reference Solutions is our biggest one in terms of tangible business information. I feel like that's always going to be the first to reference when it comes to someone actually trying to build their business or do analytics in some way. But then there's also some other that are more useful in different aspects. For instance, I mentioned the Small Business Reference Center. That's a resource we have through EBSCO, and it has a host of information, a lot of reference books, forms, test forms, like tax forms and whatnot. There's videos, there's things on financial planning, managing a business, exit strategies, all different business topics, and a very useful resource for someone who's trying to find out information on their own and maybe are getting lost in Google and maybe just want to be a little informed before they reach out to another resource. We also have Business Source Elite, another EBSCO product. It's what I mentioned before with some of the business publications. It also can be paired with the regional business news, which is another one that's more granular down to like maybe county level where applicable. Between the two, there's thousands of publications. And that's kind of that value added thing where a lot of them may be useful more on the day-to-day, just, the things that businesses would like access to, but they don't want to have to pay for themselves. The Legal Information Reference Center, that is one that maybe not always applied, but it is a very in-depth resource. So when someone is getting into the nitty-gritty or the more detailed aspects of law around their business, that is a great resource. It allows you to find the topics quickly and succinctly, and a lot of times kind of get you a baseline before you take, the proper steps. And that's what a lot of these are. They're not standalone, but when used alongside, professional help and other things, it allows you to kind of clear the fog of war, in a sense. And then the Newspaper Source Plus, which is another publication resource that I think is really useful. Like I mentioned, I don't want to say definitively, but some of the major papers like Wall Street Journal, these are things that people would love to have access to, but can be cost prohibitive. I know like the New York Times is probably, just even for a digital subscription, probably getting close to $20 at this point. And if there's multiple publications that you want access to, that can add up really quick. And then just more generally, like I said, I've only been in this position for 6 months. I have a marketing background and a business background, but I don't know as much about the library community as I'd like. So if there are things that you're seeing on a day-to-day that you think would be useful for us to know and better helping the library community, I'm all ears. So just, either reach out to Andrea or myself directly, and that'd be appreciated. And then lastly, everything I spoke about, all the resources I mentioned, are all listed in detail on the JerseyClicks.org website, webpage. So if you do want to read more into them or just access them, or if it's something that you don't think you have access to or you're having issues with, all my contact information, there's a contact form, there's plenty of other FAQ and resources regarding the JerseyClicks resources on that page. Yeah. So thanks again, Andrea.
Yeah. And that page is so great with having so much information there. I mean, not just the links to the databases, but then also links to videos or, other information. So it's like really all in one place. But then when I'm going out and I'm talking about different libraries, like I'm not just representing one, it's nice to have a place to point people to. Let's more publicly facing than what it used to look like, where you get there and it would be a little bit confusing. So it has those dual purposes for internal in the libraries, but also publicly facing if that's what you need.
Sure. And with a simple URL, feel free to, if you have a patron that maybe wants more information on the program in general, you can send them to that same page. Like Andrew said, it is public facing. It's meant to be a resource for both libraries and the general public.
And I was wondering, based on your, non-librarian background, which is so valuable, but also your marketing and your business experience, is there any way that you would recommend kind of talking about these resources or some language to use that's less librarian, maybe a little bit clearer about, when we say things like databases, we all know in the library field, like if you're working in libraries, you kind of know what that means, but do you have any other suggestions of ways to describe them?
Maybe not direct verbiage, but I will say I think it all comes back to the assumptions. This is another problem you see across all industries, not unique to the library world, but a lot of times people through the assumptions and through their experience and knowledge will forget that the end user does not know your acronyms. They don't know your history. They don't know your culture. They don't know most of the background. If you're talking about reference solutions and you say it's a database and you say that it has business information, just remember that all the kind of background information that you have attached to those words does not exist for the user most of the time. So it's important to be detailed, and when you are detailing, just do it in everyday terms. Kind of like as I was explaining some of those resources. If you're talking about some of these EBSCO resources, give them examples of how it can be used. If it's a publication resource, it doesn't have to be something flashy. It can simply be that like you don't have to pay for this and you can read the news. And when you put it in those basic terms, it really hits people where they are. And then more broadly, this is actually something we're working on in the marketing team here. We want to get a few marketing resources together for the different topics that we offer through JerseyClicks. And when we do have something more to show for that, I will definitely be letting Andrea know, and she can let the community know through there, and hopefully we can make some impact with stuff that the library, the state library can give out.
That would be great. Yeah, to be able to have those topics together, and then either have a handout or something that's more specific to those.
Exactly, it's something specific to business, maybe something specific to a few of the other topics we cover in detail. So yeah.
And I definitely want to open it up to questions from you guys. Maybe some things that you are having difficulty with, things that you would just like to share because you found that they worked in your library. But I also want to address some of the other comments in the chat. So Nancy pointed out that sometimes chambers or Rotary are looking for a speaker for their meetings. So there might, in addition to reaching out, there might be organizations that you're doing them a favor by being a speaker and being a resource for them. And then Rachel shared that in Ocean County Library, SCORE would promote the library and its resources, and then she would invite a one-on-one appointment to see in which way we could help within our scope of resources. So I love that the handoff is to SCORE and then from SCORE to the library. So, you know, working both ways.
Can I make one point on that, Andrea? And it's just, again, you don't have to go into a lot of these relationships thinking that they're doing you a favor. You know, a lot of this is beneficial for them as much as the library. You know, it's you know, these business institutions are also trying to promote themselves. They do better when they have a higher membership, and there's a lot of crossover. So when you approach some of them, you know, they are probably more receptive than you think, and they probably have more to get out of it than you'd think. And I feel like that comment really shows that, because in the end, you know, you're exposing them to some of your patrons, and then vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. I think we always kind of feel like if we're given the opportunity to share what we're doing, then it's self-serving. But yes, like you said, it helps them too.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel would like to know if you could share any information you have to promote the databases. Do you want to bring up the JerseyClicks page and then show if there are any links that they might want to see?
Yeah, I would say give us just a little time. This is, like I said, this is a project we're working on. We're working on changing kind of in some of the same lessons I spoke about today are some of the reflections that we've been having ourselves in the last couple of months. So if you go on the JerseyClicks page, you'll see that there are descriptions of each database listed there. We're trying to expand on all those. So in the near future, along with changing the website itself, we hope to have some updated handouts that not only list just like a block of text, you know, a paragraph explaining the nitty-gritty details, but something that breaks down like, what are the uses of this database? What are the possible demographics, you know, like who would be best served by this? And we're really trying to expand it out to make it a lot easier for people to digest. And with that, we hope to make some more marketing materials with it. And I think that's a lot of what it comes down to. And that's why we're trying to make inroads on that aspect.
Great. And Tanya points out that we can't take for granted or assume that people know what a database is. So
that's a great point.
Yeah, sometimes
it's something as simple as that.
A digital resource. I don't know if that one's much better, or online resource. I don't know if anyone else has any words. Oh, Tanya, do you want to share?
Yeah, what I try to do, because everybody seems to be familiar with Google and internet searching, and so what I try to do is sort of compare, you know, research, what I call research databases. If I put research databases, people seem to respond to that a little bit better compared to Google, which is in a way kind of like a database, but sometimes I like describing it or using the analogy of like trying to find a needle in a haystack. That Google is like this massive, huge haystack just full of, you know, all sorts of random stuff like, you know, cat videos or tweets or blog posts or, you know, newspaper articles or whatever. Whereas databases are more organized. They're smaller, you know, they're like more like hay bales of information, and they have, you know, powerful search tools associated with them, like being able to filter things by date, by geography, by subject matter, and so the way I describe it is like, if you have a really, really huge database or a really, really huge hay pile like Google, you really need a powerful magnet or search engine in order to like be able to pull out, you know, if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, you need a powerful magnet. But the other way to find a needle in a haystack is to shrink the hay pile, you know, to shrink it to a manageable size. So you have a hay bale of just, you know, like scholarly articles, or a hay bale of just books, or a hay bale of just business information. And then you shrink that hay pile and that, so I like to think of it like that. And
That is a great
That's great.
analogy.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of meeting people where they are. People understand that general analogy and putting it into terms they understand. You can really broaden the horizons quickly.
All right, we are approaching noon, and I want to give one more opportunity if anyone has any questions for me or Steve or for the general group. All right, otherwise, we have another meeting coming up in January. This will be a webinar, and it will be led by Taxation University. So it's the training division of the Division of Taxation, and they're going to be talking about how to start a business in New Jersey. So they're going to share some of what the steps are, how you can find resources to give to your patrons about the steps and the information that they have on the taxation website, how you can answer a variety of questions to pass along to your business community. And that will be on January 11th at 10 a.m. So that will be going out on LLNJ and the NJLibsGrowBiz listserv. And I put the link to the State Library's webpage, NJLibsGrowBiz. And so it's listed there as well with the registration link. So thank you all for being here today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And otherwise, I will see you all in the new year. So happy holidays and thank you.
Have a good one, everyone. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.